Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons & Dragons and discuss how we might include them and improve them for our role-playing campaigns. Woo! Like that big wavy hands to say we've opened the studio. My name is Fiona, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host Hamilton. Hello, Hamilton. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I've been moaning, but I'm fine.
We have our pre-session moan, both of us doing different things, which is
but
fine.
not about the book this time, which is a nice change.
It is a nice change. I feel like after our Dragon Delve, just sort of getting over it, and then I was like, oh, because then you were like, what about we do this one? I was like, oh, I don't know. And then you were like, no, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And then I read it, and I was like, oh, Hamilton, I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel really good.
I can't take any of the credit. It was literally just like, it sounded cool, looked cool. It got a nice front cover, which is what I go on. And I must admit, Dragon Stuff didn't have a good cover, so judging books by covers might be a good thing.
There you go.
Don't take that to heart, people.
We've buried the lead a bit, but we're going to be looking at Netheril's Fall today as a free supplement that we can get on D&D Beyond. I believe it's digital. And considering over the last 2 years, again, I still feel that we're in that 50th gap of it's still the 50th. Here's an extra thingy.
Yeah.
We've obviously looked at lots of free supplements, and we've all gone, oh.
Yeah, up and down.
And I had that here. I was like, oh, is it any good? And then I'm like, oh, it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Why is it? What is this? You know
what I think it is, and I would say I think the overview of it, just to give people what you're going to find in here, and I think maybe that's kind of what's kind of key to its success potentially, is that it's you kind of get like a intro with a little bit of lore. You're going to get a bit of lore of this place called Netheril, which is set in Faerun. It's an ancient civilization. You're going to get a bit of this is how the world kind of works here. You're going to get a couple of little funky, fun things to play with, a couple of city maps, and then some ways to get you there, as well as some adventures to have in there, plus a couple of magic items, a couple of little monsters. And I think what they've done, and I think what I'm finding they're doing better at potentially, is being with these sort of smaller things much more about here's delivering you a set of information and tools for you to utilize, rather than when they try and rush an adventure out, it kind of falls short a little bit. Like the Mortuary was a good example of actually a good way they did it, where it wasn't actually here's an actual adventure, here's a really cool place with some nice maps, some information, but really it's about you sort of making your own thing. Because when they get a rushed adventure, I think what people find is that adventures take a lot longer to be really good than actually coming up with lore and places. I find that personally. I mean, maybe some people disagree with me, but I think sitting there and writing lore and coming up with places and describing people and things to do there and really cool, exciting tropes and magic items and little beasts and stuff like that are really easy to just explore and have fun with and just come up with fun ideas. But when it comes to selling an adventure, you need structure, story, inciting incident. You need to have cohesion. It needs to make a lot of sense, and you can't really rush that. I don't think as well as you can not rush. And I don't mean it in the sense that this is rushed. I think why this is so successful is because, or much more successful than Dungeon Delves, is this has a cohesion within itself that has made sense, because I think that it's something that is manageable in that smaller time frame.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah, and I think this is something when we get on to the adventures in Forgotten Realms over the next couple of weeks, she says, fingers crossed, obviously, all our recording sessions work out, is that ultimately what we like is these big setting books with a lot of more plot hooks or a lot of more random tables for us to make up our own thing. And maybe it's that newer GMs, maybe well, we need a story. We want to play through to see how it's done. But then, like you said, I think a lot of tables, certainly when we spoke to people, I know many years ago now, but at MCM stuff, new people were oh yeah, I just write my own thing. I just do my own homebrew stuff. I don't need the rules, but they'll buy all the books. So that's why I agree. I think there's been this big shift over the last couple of years anyway, because they've gone, okay, we've done one adventure, fine. Or I've taken an adventure and I've completely rewritten it to be my own thing. Here, in this supplement, I've gone, wow, okay, here's an interesting concept, this idea of this a certain culture that has gone, you know what, to show that we're better than everyone else, we've got this amazing magical power, we're going to lift certain cities up into the air, which again, it's an amazing sort of visual element that you've got here. but also that sort of folly of like, well, this whole civilization crashed and burned however many years ago. And then the idea that you can then time travel or have these portals or gates or whatever, and you go, oh no, this is, for each day here, it is like a day 100 years ago. And how do we what happens there? That's just really interesting, really cool.
So in this book, it talks about those time anomalies. And I think what's interesting about it that I felt was lacking, but it was kind of okay, is that it never really said oh, people in this city were playing with time and they were all interested in how like manipulating time, and they kind of know about these time gates to a certain extent, but it never kind of said like, do you tell them of the impending doom? Because like, where's the whole grandfather paradox here of the whole, like, if you tell them that it's going to happen, does it stop it happening? And does that mean there isn't a thing in the future? I mean, like they never went into that classic, like, and probably because everyone now knows all these things, right? Everyone knows time travel comes with all these things and you deal with it how you want, but it never even mentions
what's the ethics behind it all? Yeah, absolutely.
Which I thought was interesting, because it was like, because the way it all falls apart, and it tells you in the story, is that the leader, which is called, I remember his name, Cranasus or something like that, is it?
Yes, I know who you're talking about, yes.
Yeah.
The magic dude who was like, I will become a god.
Yes, exactly.
By doing this one thing.
He was like, I want to turn myself into the
Karsus.
Karsus, yeah. Karsus wants to convert himself to overthrow Mithril, who becomes Mystara, or Mistral, and then wants to overcome Mistral as the god of magic, wants to become the god of magic themselves, which actually causes the whole age to end and to take magic from the realm completely. And then that means that Mystara comes back, who's the now current god in Faerun of magic. But it was just kind of like, if you tell people that, will they just stop him? Do you know, isn't that what you kind of, they never mention it. That's the only thing.
Well, one of the reasons I feel like they don't do that, so there's right at the beginning, there's this whole thing about the what their attitudes are. And it sort of talks about like the idea that their outlook is like, it's quite brutal. And I think the key thing is that magic fixes everything. So there's almost like we kind of talked about it a little bit off podcast, this idea of like, well, a quick fix, just do this. And I feel like maybe that's something that you can play into, is like, if you're using magic for everything, that's pulling on the weave. And at some point that, it's like, oh, maybe should I recycle this one bottle? Everyone else is doing it. So what difference is making? It's like, well, it's all of it's this pull, this weight is doing something. And I think you could emphasize that. And people just don't think it's their problem. I think that's what it is. So again, you could go and go, no, in 150 years' time, this whole place is gonna not be existing. Like, well, that's not a problem for me.
I mean, that's true. You can play the whole "don't look up" sort of thing.
Yes, very much. Don't look up.
It's like that, and you could so do that. You're completely right. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in that. Actually, that's a really good way of putting it. And I think also, like, there's a lot of interesting sort of class warfare going on within this realm, which I think they've drawn up. It's very broad brushes at the moment, and I think you need to work into it. But I think there's a interesting dichotomy between lower Netheril and the upper Netheril. And I think as much as it's very clear, the whole like Elysium style, if you've ever seen that movie, of like the floating city, and then you've got Conch as the land below. But then there's the interesting part of, so you've got Netheril. It's not called Netheril, it's called Eliana.
No, she says yes.
I'll try that.
I know, try that, yeah.
Which is the floating city that you have, and then you get Conch, which is this like ground
and
level.
Conch,
and Conch. And then but the thing is, with Conch is kind of really interesting, and I think it's my side of the fence. I think personally more interesting, but I think it's kind of worthwhile that it kind of proves that Eleanor is this very much like high mage society. The people that are not of high Netherese status are basically all working on behalf of the Netheril. And then you've got Conch below, which is very much like a mining town that they've tried at one point to put some money into, but really haven't really delivered on any like social progress, and have left everything to fall apart. And because that is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, and I liked how it was mining and not what the go-to staple is. And I think it's maybe a very American thing. It's farming, right?
Well, this is,
I felt like, okay, they're trying to like, oh, we'll do this and put money into this bit, and it's not worked. And they go, oh, well, I'm bored now. And so it felt more fleshed out. The sort of like, Conch felt more fleshed out, but we'll still have mages around. But obviously they'd be like, oh, I can't believe I've been stuck here. My career's up in Ilinar, and I just that whole idea of like, well, mages have privilege because everyone was into magic. If you don't have magic, you're kind of looked down upon a little bit. Just have that in bait, and I like that it's magic and magic capability rather than anything else that is maybe rooted in the real world, because obviously that's something that could easily be rooted in the real world. And also, it says right at the beginning, the majority of people, I think actually all people in Netheril are human in appearance. So it's not going to be like, oh, well, it's one snooty high elf at the top. And it's like, no. It is like, this is our folly. Everyone is equally bad, but it's just due to this one lineage, And
I think it's obviously a theme that's going around because, like, in my book, I've done the same thing of where you've got, like, mining people that have been taken over by other people, and there's a rebellion stirring. And I think it's obviously in the common consciousness at the moment. So you're kind of like not surprised that it's a thing. But I think it's interesting. I think I'd like to have seen more of in this is like, I think they could have fleshed that out a bit more.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, there's a little bit of information they talk about in Conch particularly, and I talk about Conch more because I think there's more in there to be born out of it, of like the smugglers. I've got in my mind, and I've done like little different cartels, and there's little fights between them, and I think it could be interesting if they played on that a bit more personally. But I think it's a really good starting point for like a few different, like, you've got a few different factions all working here, rather than it just being purely the high Netheries and low Netheries. You've also then got this cartel element which can be playing both sides a little bit, and you could utilize, as well as this sort of rebellion side as well. I forgot the name of the rebellions.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know what you mean. Yes,
there's a people that are called they've got a funky name, who are the rebellion. I think you could play all four of those things off one another, which I think could be really interesting. And like with certain things like the I think it's the House of Wine and Vinegar.
Yes, what a great name, by the way. That feels very much the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones style, yes.
But I like how that place is no high Netheries are allowed inside, so it's a space purely safe for like for the common folk in a sense. And I think it's a really interesting like idea of like putting justification on top of like safe spaces for people in an interesting way in this realm, and how like this sense of community that's being built in here kind of gave real flesh to that story. There's always in these sort of adventures, there are like underground spaces where you meet up and stuff like that. But actually having a space that's clearly like a hospital and drinking hall, an actual place above ground, which is focused on being a third space. I don't know. It's kind of, I know this is very making it real world stories, but it's like, it's really interesting that that it's not something I've seen in a D&D adventure before, where do you know what I mean? Like that's talked about, apart from it just being basically a tavern, but normally taverns are open to everyone. Do you know what I mean?
I literally was about to say, like, because I was like, oh, a hospital and a winery of some sort. I was like, okay, interesting. But then I was like, it's actually quite nice. There's a second purpose why you'd be there rather than like, I guess we go drinking again,
Yeah.
And one thing, again, I think it's been very interesting over the last couple of things that we've read, the structure of it. So it goes like, tells us a little bit about it. Here's some like NPCs. But then it goes, reasons your adventurers might want to visit. Here's 3 reasons why. And at the bottom it's like concealment, healing, information source. And I'm like, great. It's not just a flavor thing that I could go, oh, that's a fun name. What could I do with that? Like it's said, like, here's 3 things you can do here. And I was like, that's great. I just feel like, I know it sounds really silly, but that structure of information and be like, here's why you'd go here. Here's why you'd use this block. Here's why you'd use this. It's just very helpful because then you go, cool, here's 3 things I can do, and then make a story around it, or have other NPCs out. There is someone here that's hiding. There's the main proprietor of, is it Netheril of the Pond, this witch.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, I think that's an interesting talk about like magic in general, about like, well, studying it is seen as a good thing, but like being naturally powerful is also not so good. And nature is always an interesting one. So I thought that was interesting that here, this person is quite like well respected, even though maybe in other societies, or certainly in the floating cities, probably more looked down upon, which I thought was interesting.
It's well put together as a general rule. And I thought you mentioned the mining. And I think what was, oh no, that's not what I said. The public bath, that's what I was looking for. There we go. I thought that was a really interesting thing of like showing there was a space that was created by the High Netheries it says like the public baths were built in a bygone era and the High Netheril hoped to deal justly with its subjects, which is such a horrible sentence in some ways.
Word, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when the battle lines between majors, labourers and smugglers were drawn, the Riverside institution fell into disrepair and dispute. And it kind of like, so the High Netheries no longer wished to spend money on an amenity for people they came to see as enemies. And you're just like, ugh, like, oh, I hate these people so much, because it's like, oh, they're like, you're not being nice to us. We've given you this free place to wash and like to like have a nice time, but
yes.
because you don't like the fact that we're not paying you well or we're being horrible, we're just gonna not do anything for you. Like, oh, it's so...
you don't deserve nice things. You can't be nice, you don't deserve nice things. Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
And it's kind of interesting. And then the fact that it's become like the smuggler's den is kind of interesting. It creates kind of interesting vibe.
I can just imagine that you're doing your own version of Goodfellas or The Godfather, but everyone's there in towels. It's just, again, it gets away from like food places and taverns and dark, dingy places. It's like, wow, it's a really nice place. You go, so you want to be smuggling some of this rare ore, do you? He goes, oh well, yeah. I said, no, it's fine. And I just like the idea of being confident. All these gangster or smuggler like people just being like really goes, yeah, well, it's very important for our health. The steam is actually really good for our blood
before
pressure.
We make a contract, we must steam. We must
steam together. Because there's that idea of like you're taking off all your armor, you're very bare. Like, I mean, obviously, I know like one of the adventure huts later on is a murder, but I do like the idea that everyone's there. It's like, this is our neutral ground where we can discuss stuff, but we're all in towels and everyone gets like a head wrap.
We all get to know who each other is, really. No, I think it just made me think of our mutual friends, the bastards, and there, before we make a deal, we must have pancakes together.
Right, exactly.
Like that,
I can just imagine everyone's going to, it's like a very serious moment to go, okay, the deal is struck, and somebody then pours like water onto the hot coals.
The hot coals. It's a nice transition point in the story, though.
Yeah,
exactly. Smoke comes up and you can transition to another part of the story.
Well, one thing I thought was interesting, again, going back to that sort of sensibilities thing. So again, it was talking about like different fashions for the both high and low Netherese, but also there's a small paragraph which I thought was interesting about pets, and it talks about here like these mages use magic, to create fantastical pets which are in abundance throughout the empire. Strange chimeric pets are common, such as winged hares, venomous baboons, and feathered mastiffs. So again, there's a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood kind of ideas here. But I was like, what if like there is a thing about like these, you can have old pets get out of control, but also like the idea of breeding and those fashion pets that we see, like the small handbag dogs and all that sort of thing, and that's actually very ill health.
Miniature pigs.
Miniature pigs, anything like that. I thought was just a nice flavoursome thing that you can, the High Netherese daughter comes to. That was it. In Conch, there's the mayor of the town, or whoever owns the mine. He gets the stolen gems or whatever, and his daughter wears them.
Niece, isn't it?
His niece. Yeah. And I was like, that is such a cool, flavoursome thing. So what if she turns up and she's got a little like winged like pig in her handbag, but she's covered in jewel. I just thought these little details really make up, and it felt almost very real just now. Like slightly off topic, but I went to like this audition recently for like a community theatre thing, and way too many people turned up, so I was like, fine. But then I got to meet the local actors scene. And let me tell you, that all those stereotypes about actors talking to other actors is so true. And I'm just sat there as Normal Normalson blog and going like, this is amazing. I've got so much I can use for NPCs when I get back, because all of them are talking absolute like rubbish. And I'm just like, I like that. Can you hear yourself
going to parties
talking?
Is NPC farming.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was like, I'm doing research. It's like, you were out to 2 a.m. dancing. Yeah, I had to. I had to go deep undercover.
I love it. It's amazing. There's a lot of them you could use for some of these places, particularly, I think. There's a lot of great stuff in this first part. This is basically like chapter 1, really. Well, the introduction, I think it really is actually. We're kind of, and the chapter 1, isn't it? Where it's like adventuring in Netheril and this sort of...
Yeah, I think the first 2 chapters about like, here's the history, here's a bit of a... Again, all of it I think is just a nice little taste. It gives that information about like what Netheril was, these flying cities, like what happened. Essentially, a nice little timeline. Some good like splash like art images I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so.
Give some examples of it's nice that they had two different places, because I think it would have been easy just to give you one, but here's two different places. Also, I will say though, on the big map they're not very close together, so I'm just there going like, where the bloody hell is Conch?
That was the only thing on the big map, was like a bit like, I can't see anything on this. This is too big a map for me.
Yeah, I was like, it's a nice map, but like so here's my thought. I think, because one of our folks in the Discord, I can't remember who it was now, so apologies. They shared this Polygon article about Netheril, of it saying Chris Perkins had this idea to use Netheril as like the big sort of reveal, because there's all these obelisks that keep showing up on these adventures. And it would have been a big culminating thing in the 50th, but then because he moved away, it never happened. And now we have this. I think this part might have been in the new Forgotten Realms book, but maybe, again, there's too much stuff, so they had to cut stuff because it was like, there's no point to this. So I wonder if this big old map actually had a lot more to it. Like it had like info about it, but they're like, we can't put it in the free supplement. So that's what I was wondering. Maybe this was a much bigger chapter.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think what I must say, surprise, most favourite part for me that I was like, I want to know more about this, is Thulanthanar.
Yeah.
Thultantha.
Again, no pronunciation guides as usual, so we're just muddling through the best we can, yeah.
So when Netheril falls and all this magic goes out, this city survives by going into the Shadowfell. And then when it comes back, it's like got all this weird shadowy magic in it. And I was like, I'd like to know more about that place.
Well, again, it's an adventure in itself where you look up to the sky and it's like, what's this thing? It tears through and it just like, Wah! And it's like the Borg appearing in Star Trek. It's like, we are the Netheril. We will subsume you.
Exactly, 100%. And you've got like Bodaks. Have you ever seen like the Bodaks in D&D? They're fun and terrifying. And Night Stalkers, are they called or something like that? I think they're called.
I actually wonder, just looking at the big map, there's a small little like, not Maker's Mark, but like a signature at the bottom. I don't know how true this is. It says 2007 at the bottom, so I wonder if this is an old map. It's like a G and 2007. So unless it's like
the Netheril map.
Yeah, the big Netheril map right at the bottom near Blister. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a small. So I wonder, maybe this is an old map. Maybe they've just cobbled it together. I don't know.
Googling Netheril Forgotten Realms. Fandom Forgotten Realms wiki is generally really good for like also saying like appearances generally. Gallery, that map is on there already. It looks like it's from a book. That map's been around a while.
Oh, there you go then. So maybe I was wrong in the idea of like maybe. Oh well, if anything, it's good that there's. If you enjoy the supplement, you can go check out this book earlier.
That book was around in 1996. Was a very similar one. So it's probably been just slightly updated for 2007. But that's from the Netheril at its height, included in Netheril Empire of Magic from TSR in October 1996.
Oh, there you go. So there's so much more here. I think this little taster actually has been pretty good.
Netheril Empire of Magic looks like a cool front cover, Fiona. Oh my gosh, I got to share this in the chat.
Share me quickly. Yeah.
Oh, because I like those Faerun, which I was like, when you have these kind of moments when you're like, I find this, like it's weird how things coincide in your brain. And I must have seen something, I don't know. But I did, like, in my last book, The Omen Bloodline, I did this place where mages caused the rift in the earth and these horrible things came out. And the ones I drew look exactly like Faerun. I'm like, is this just, is this because this is actually what aliens look like? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I have that freaky theory that it's like, they've just got a big head with like furry bodies. Mine are slightly different, but I was like, they look similar. I'm like, is this what aliens are?
Well,
is this what Team Action?
Absolutely. Gosh, that cover is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, right?
Again, I can't tell if the horrible creature monster, obviously that, which we'll come onto properly in a second, is grabbing the lady, or she's just doing like a cool like motion forward and is doing her spell. Is the only thing I would say. So no, don't grab me. Here's a Dragon Ball or something. Her hair's so long. It's a ridiculously long hair.
I mean, this is what artists do, right? That's what I've done. Don't question it.
I will not question it. What I really liked about this supplement, again, every so often there's a paragraph you go, oh, that's interesting. There was a paragraph talking about music and how music is like important. So it's like you know, like this idea that there's music constantly everywhere, but also even the lower Netherese people will hum a tune, but they won't know about it. So again, I just thought that'd be interesting that this idea of song, maybe it's a music festival or something like that, and like how we share stories, maybe it's through song instead, and like folk tales and stuff. And again, if you have more creative folk around the table, maybe encouraging them to sing or share from their people. It's like, oh yes, the great bard Taylor Swift, and her latest songbook, The Eras Tour.
Yeah.
I always like that encouragement of like, here's something else that you will notice if you're visiting here for the first time. The idea of, there's music, like, because often it's like music or food or colour in things. I think showing that vibrancy makes it feel really real. And so I kind of liked how, again, just a short paragraph, and it's like, it's not just limited to the upper classes, as it were. It features in every part of life, just as magic is. I just thought, that's quite nice. Again, just as a thing to consider as a GM. Because then the second half of this supplement is 2 adventures, kind of like that. Three adventures. That's sort of like, here's stuff you can think about, as well as like, here's other things to, if you're, we talked about the time travel stuff, but also magical anomalies. I quite like the magical anomalies. I thought they were quite interesting. Again, the idea of like low gravity makes sense because obviously you're flying up and around. There was like the dampening magic zone, essentially, where everything is slightly reduced. Communal telepath zone. Which I think could be quite, that could be quite, again, there's these different ones where like, this is quite fun and interesting to throw at your players who maybe are not used to this sort of thing. So it's suddenly they're just bombarded by like being on a party line with everyone.
I thought the magical hazards were more exciting personally, in the sense of like, I like the different zones, but I thought what was quite cool is like glitter moss, as that idea of this like sparkling multicolored moss that's like around lots of intense magical stuff. And it's like, if you fail a save, you get radiant damage, and you can be blinded, and there's kind of a fun thing about that. And then shadow bark, which is this kind of like, because they cast shadows on the ground, because it's also like the trees start feeding off the magic instead of like sunlight, and that's why they get this like purple and black moss-like coating to the bark that then gives you necrotic damage, which I think is quite cool. And I love the idea of being like, someone could be like armored up in shadow bark armor or something like that that deals like armor of Agathis, but in a similar, you could like rebrand it so that you get this sort of necrotic damage as a return.
Oh yeah, that's quite fun. Like you said, all this is just from the concentration of like really high level magic stuff. So like you said, the glitter moss, the shadow bar, even the arcane effluence, the idea of like, it's just so toxic around here. There's this acid damage that you just like, if you accidentally slip, you're like, what? It's just polluting the waterways again. That feels very relevant right now.
Exactly. You're just like, here's some more Captain Planet for everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's nice to have these, and then because ultimately all the ones in the Dungeon Master's Guide feel like, by the way, when you're in the dungeon, here's some yellow mold, here's some this, that, and here's like stuff like, what if it was really magical?
No, I think they're fun, and I'd glitter them around just everywhere, to be honest. Glitter moss it around everywhere.
You have like the witch briars, again, that idea of the sort of Sleeping Beauty-esque sort of briars that are like slightly alive. It feels like, I swear, I can't remember where it was. The Faces of Situal, where there's like a sentient Razorvine. Yeah,
and then there's the sentient one. That's it. Cool.
Just do the same thing here as well. I want to say it's Patches of some sort. Yeah. Well, that was their name, but exactly. Do the same thing here. Maybe they're the leader of the Free Warriors up here, or whatever they're called. The sort of like, if it's in one of the cities, have fun with like making sentient plant life that's taking over floating cities, and then maybe we'll crash and burn it into the ground as a result.
I like nice environment. I think it was environmental effects the word, but like I was trying to, I always think it's quite good. I feel like druids don't get enough of that sort of thing of like, I'm good. Grasping Vine's a great one, isn't it? And like Hail of Thorns and stuff like that's really good. But like lots more just horrible little things to chuck in your campaigns of like magical fauna and flora is quite fun.
And like going back to the environmental effects, so obviously, we said like telepathy, dampening, obviously empowered, so suddenly like, your spells do more damage. The eerie chanting one I thought was interesting, because that is just like, it's like murmuring, like something happening around, which will give you disadvantage on perception checks, but also on Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration. The idea is like, you're not good enough. It's terrible. You're just like,
what are you wearing? Are you sure that's a good thing to wear out and about.
Oh my god! Yeah, maybe what it is actually it's gossip. It's that's what it's just repeated like gossip.
It's just shorts. It's just
YouTube shorts.
YouTube shorts. That's what it is. It's just YouTube shorts.
It's all the memeable like
hey.
It's what's that? A knife? No, it's repeated on loop.
Yeah, it's like really, really catchy memes and songs. Oh yeah, it's just
true.
like I'm blue, da-boo-dee, da-boo-da, da-boo-dee, da, and it just fades out and then comes back in again. Like, damn, I've just lost.
Oh, well, instantly the worst one for that would be like Crazy Frog, right? This is
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah,
bop, doop, I do.
That's great. I love the idea.
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, you've got all these earworms from the mid noughties and 90s in your head now. But that's great. What a cool way to put that up of like going, what is the Forgotten Realms version of like a Vine, or a meme,
Just Volo's blog.
It says, point of view, Volo and Waterdeep. It's like three things you need to know about a Waterdeep.
Yeah, exactly.
You will never guess the second one,
Yeah. Oh, no, the worst thing, it won't be Volo. It will be someone reacting. Volo reacts to Volo.
Stitching coming. Oh, God, you're right. And so then you're like, I'm trying to concentrate on my spell, but I'm getting distracted.
Sorry, I just want to say this. The thing that I find the most it keeps coming up and I'm like, why are people doing this? Is people doing recipes of the people who do TikTok recipes to test if they're actually good recipes is a thing I'm seeing. So it's like someone going, I'm going to do this person's recipe. And it goes, I'm going to make get a bowl. The guy gets a bowl, get a thing. And you're just watching a TikTok being repeated by someone as a thing to rate their... And you're just like, wow,
that's really funny.
The worm is eating itself.
Yeah, the ones I like are when people are doing recipes, what they're doing super seriously, and then there's a parody of that. So it's like lemon, and they put lemon. It's like lemon.
Like, those are better because it's comedy. These ones
comedy
are just...
sketch. Yeah, but I absolutely goes. Well, I have to try this thing. It's like, okay, why do we need to be here for this?
Exactly. Yeah,
I agree. Oh man.
It's not as bad as the old guy drinking a drink underneath memes. That annoys me a lot as well. Have you seen those ones?
God, yeah.
When it's just a meme and then it's just the guy's face drinking a drink and you're like, dude, you're getting millions of views. You're doing fine, but it's annoying.
Look, I know we've got completely off topic now, but there's a guy in the improv scene who I very much respect. He used to do videos like this. So he goes, hey, here's free tips, and we'll talk to the camera. Perfectly fine. But now what he started doing, he goes, hey, what Tina Fey once said about this, and then we'll find a clip of the interview she does, right? And then we'll do that thing where he will look up and be like, like nod his head and look back to you, and I'm like, okay, why don't you just share the clip? I don't need you like looking. No. You're not there. You're not with Tina Fey.
It stops the copyright a bit, and it also makes them like not get AI.
It's awful. I hate. I mean, there's now that parody of like someone going like, I hate it. Like the woman's at home, she's cooking this, and it's they're just in the same room as the people, right? Yeah. So they're at the bottom corner, and the person comes and goes, "Oi, help out with your children."
Yes.
So I like those.
I've not seen those. Oh, that's kind of good.
Yeah, basically, it's like, I hate it here. You see the woman, she's cooking and has 3 kids just randomly about. It's just so terrible. Where's the father in this? And the woman comes and goes, Gary, your kid has like football at 7. He goes, I know, I'm in the middle of a video.
So good. That's so good.
Anyway,
I like that. I had one more, which is like, anyway, all I'll say is over 50s should not be allowed to go on the internet. Let's just leave it at that.
That hot take from Hamilton here on the DM's Book Club.
I've had parents round. We'll leave it at that. That's all we'll leave it at.
The final stuff, as I said, we had time traveling sort of adventures. There's like 3 types of them. And they sort of take place. One is sort of just in a random workshop where you sort of like bantha in, and there's being an attack by these sort of, I want to say like almost like Dune-like creatures that are attracted to magic, which I really love. Again, that alien stuff.
They were the ones I say look like the ones I drew, because I was inspired, I think, by the Half-Life monsters, which are probably inspired by this. But the little like Half-Life monsters. Yeah. They're like those, but with like big furry faces that are
big furry faces. Are horrible, like circular, like mouths with too many teeth. This is where I can't say their name right. Is it the Faerûn? Faerûn. Yeah. Faerûn. Yeah. Yeah, they're just basically big old creatures that are like, again, maybe seek out magical things. So yeah, the first one, the attack of the Faerûn, is that there's a mage who was conducting a time travel experiment in a chamber in his workshop, and then brought you guys here into Conch, and then you're getting attacked, so you have to help him. And then he's like, well, I guess I could send you back, but it might take several days. And that's the end of the adventure. You're like, okay, again, a great plot hook for you to get here. All these like are just ways to get into Netheril. The second one is, I think you just it's maybe a lead on from that one, that somebody has been murdered essentially, and you're like, oh well, must find out who's done that. And then the final one, I think, is that the one
that's when Carsus is in the middle of his actual like ascendancy,
and you are there kind of stopping it or helping stuff happening. The magic malfunctions, that's it. And so you're trying to stop the city from actually falling, but you're able to stabilize it as well.
I think that's kind of a cool one. I think
I agree.
It could do a little bit more fleshing out, I guess, but it's like, that's fine, they do what they want, but it's that kind of idea that you're like, because they're doing this like undoing the magic god, that are clearly like magical anomalies are happening, so you get drawn through. It was kind of a bit like, there's some flumps in it, and then
save the flumps.
Save the flumps. Something else we haven't talked about is like the Megan that appear in that, and these are like magical constructs that are like,
right, I wasn't entirely sure what they got. They
didn't
very
really
cool
explain
images.
them until you get to the bestiary, but they keep mentioning them. You're like, what's a Megan? And it's like, oh, Megans are beings of pure magical energy that are manifest as human or other beings, like human-like beings.
But they've been created, right? So to me, they look like Vision from Marvel.
They do look like Vision.
That literally was what I was thinking. Yeah.
What's the guy from Watchmen? The Mr. Watchman, Mr. Time, Mr. Watchman characters.
Oh God, no! I can see it's the blue guy, right? Yeah,
the blue guys.
Oh,
everyone at home is like, you are not nerds.
We are
Dr. Manhattan.
There you
go. Looks like Dr.
Thank
Manhattan.
you, Google. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that sort of, you've got like ones that are like physically good, so the cauldron ones. You've got ones that are equipped with magic to help with like mining, the Terran ones, and then you've got the ones that can entertain, sort of the magician type ones. Vervos Magen. I was like, they just kind of, they're not explained really at all. And then obviously they are in the bestiary, which obviously I understand, but I was there going like, it would be nice to have some history about them, right? I was like, have they always existed? Maybe the Carsus was the first guy to create them, or just what is their regular role in everyday Netheril society? Because this feels like they're around a lot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I thought it was just like a separate class of like, we've got the mages, but we've also got the Magen, who is the police force. That's what I was thinking until we got to the end. So no,
I thought that was it, but I just like the first picture you see of them is just a guy vomiting. It's just like, it's called acid spittle, which is not even a nice way of like what are them? It's like they're just kind of like dribbling acid rather than the picture, which just looks like a vomit explosion. So it looks a bit more than like 2d8 plus 4 damage, I must admit. But yeah, it's quite funny. The image is not, and the other one looks like kind of like a weird, it's taken from one of those like movies where they're like, aliens landed in the past, and these are pictures we've got of us with aliens, because it's kind of like really weird. I don't know. It's kind of like people just working that are like normal people. There's Megan like holding a big blob over their head, and I'm like, what are you doing?
What's going on?
And then the last one is jazz hands.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I wonder if they've used images from this previous book, which is, again, totally fine, but it does feel wild to be like, well, what are they? They seem like really important, and then you get these 3 interpretations of them, and I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, I know. They're just kind of like, it's just very strange. The imagery, I thought, was very strange.
Again, I wasn't sure, because there's obviously that whole thing about, like, again, because I've been looking up Blade Runner recently, so that idea of replicants and the idea of having, like, constructs, like, do they have sentient force? And I was looking at, like, the intelligence scores is just a straight 10. So an average adventurer, an NPC. So I assumed, like, they do have sentience and they do have, like, a point of view, but they're, I'm like, is this where we have the Magen uprising, where they're like, we are people, like that was something I was like, this could be, we do the event where they're performing magic, and then they go, enough of magic, now we heist.
This big vomit.
Who brought along Gary? He's really good. He's really for the cause. Yeah, but he just vomits on people. It's just gross. It's not cool.
Exactly. Of all the like special abilities we could have got, that's what he chose. Well, he likes it. He's happy. He's happy.
Like I was like, look, Stacey does her thunder boom, and like I've got my various magic skills, and yes,
I've got my jazz hands.
I've got my hypnotic pattern. Yeah, I was just so
But it's also because they kind of like got these elongated limbs as well, which is kind of like they can elongate them, which makes them look a bit like it's very interesting. Yeah, I need more information, people, before we just like put that out there. That was kind of what I think would be interesting.
So we've got the Farim, we've got the Majin, and then the other bestiary thing that comes up is called the Eldridge Eddy, which is just again, it's another environmental thing. But again, I kind of like this idea because it has a random table which goes right before it manifests. Here's 6 things that could happen, and I kind of like that as an environmental, like, oh, something's about to happen, and then they just these are common apparently. I like the idea of oh damn it, the road's closed because a bloody Eldritch Eddy opened up, and you just see spectral images of screaming mages or terrible beasts in the world. Like, it's like, Christ, I could be late for work.
I just like the idea of Eldritch Eddy just being this dude who's just in the corner just screaming the whole time. And then you're just like, how you doing there, Eddie?
Alrighty.
Eddie. Oh, Eddie, good one. And just like starts conforming and contorting to like a Cthulhu very quickly. Oh, he's having one of his moments. You all right, Eddie? And then just eat someone next to him, like just consume someone's soul, and then you're just like, he'll be fine for another half hour. You know?
Yeah,
like,
he's been sated. I like the incoming Stitch. It's like Eldritch Eddy is like, this guy, God, you know. And,
exactly.
Everyone gets it. Here's 3 things we get wrong about Eldritch Eddies, you know.
The 7th one will blow your mind.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. Watch out.
But it's the thing, again, it's a free, quick supplement. So I was like, you know what? These 3 things I could put anywhere. I like the idea of, like, again, the Majin is something that you go to Waterdeep for the first time and goes, hey, we've revealed these new constructs that, like, do these things. Maybe they'll replace the big, like, statues and
nimble rights and stuff like that is the thing I always think of. Like, the sort of mechanical constructions that you have a lot of them in Waterdeep. But yeah, Megan as being this kind of like maybe one gets like, it could be like a as you said, like maybe it was like a load of them try to escape Netheril through a time portal and turn up. You know what I mean? That could be it. Or you could have something like, they go a bit haywire, or, you know, in terms of just or they turn on their creators.
Yeah, well, that's interesting as well, because there's definitely one of the adventures is like, oh, this my uncle, the gnome, has gone missing. Could you go? And he's always been talking about Netheril, so he goes into the, I don't know, whatever portal it is. But like, what if he comes out and he goes, you never guess who I found? This is my new mate, Stephen.
Eldritch Eddy.
Yeah, Eldritch Eddy version 2. And they're like, beep boop, or whatever. And then they get all this information. He goes, I can wait. People treat constructs here much better. Like maybe you go to, maybe it's in Eberron, you have this, and you're like, wait, the constructs here are they're actually a people. And then that's the reason Netheril falls, is that, you know, you have the Majin are like, we should be in power. We've got this magic.
Yeah, exactly.
We should be treated as this, you know. We've also got some magic items as well. Again, we don't need to go on it too much, but again, I kind of like them. I like the hat of vortices. The idea of like you could just throw your hat and a vortice appears, and then it's just difficult terrain. But I like the idea of like, I take my leave. It's Eldritch Eddy. No.
There's also the Megan Hamble says that if you roll when they get to bloody, then you roll 1d6 and a 6, they go berserk. So there is kind of this idea that they stop this command. So maybe that could be another thing, like of them just going like all haywire because of the magic as well, like that, and just turning on everyone just because of that as well. I think also the arcane battery I thought was a really cool idea. I like that. I think that's kind of fun because of what it does is it recharges anything that does have charges up to 1d4 plus 1, and then it loses its magic.
Yeah, I was like, well, that feels like having a spare battery for your phone, doesn't it? That's the thing. I thought that was really fun.
As someone who carries around like battery packs and says all the time, I'm like, that I like that a lot.
That feels well through. The one I really liked, and I don't know how I'd use it necessarily, but I thought it was really interesting. It's a bit like the Cloak of Billowing or anything like that, or the Cloak of Many Fashions, which is the Mask of Changed Appearance. Yeah, where it's for a magic action, you spend 1 charge and change your face's appearance. You can't make yourself look like a different person, but you can smooth or deepen your wrinkles, whiten your teeth, hide or accentuate bags under your eyes, or perform other minor cosmetic changes. And when you do this, the mask is invisible, obviously. I was just like, that feels really cool, but I don't know. I would struggle. How would I use it as a player, other than to be like, I'm playing my grandmother, perhaps, you know, in a game. I don't know.
I think it has that slight like aging, de-aging thing, or I think as much as anything, it's more that kind of I'd say it's more there as a flavor thing for explaining the Netherese is kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I think so. Because in a world where we have like disguise self and change person, like you can't change it or the hat of disguise or whatever it is. I think, I just thought it was such an interesting. Again, I think a lot of this supplement, it feels like it's been updated and it feels very relevant just now. Like, God, the amount of adverts I see for like, how to hide your bags and all that sort of thing, and I'm like, yeah, I guess in a fantasy world where magic is common, I'm like, just change your whole appearance, right? Why? But yeah, I guess it's like, I just thought it was just really interesting as a one-off. I don't really have much else to say on this. I felt it was one of the better supplements we've read for a while, and enough to be like, okay, where can we go with this? And obviously, I think we've got some good critique of it, of like, we could have some more here and there, or a bit more explaining. But it sounds like, again, there's plenty of books out there already about Netheril Fall.
I think that's the thing that is missing from this, because remember when we had like the more recent books in this 50th anniversary, where they did have like Bigby's story of the giants one. It said like, this is where you can find other times that Bigby's giant things existed in other books. And not the Golden Vault, the other one that we keep talking about, the Quest of the Infinite Portal Staircase, those ones said like, these are where these were published. I feel this is really missing that whole like, by the way, if you really like Netheril, these are where all these books are that you can find on Netheril.
Yeah, that's that's so true actually.
Because they did quite a lot of that before, but it's just not here.
Yeah, as you said, in the Infinite Staircase, yes, because obviously that was all updated versions. It'll be interesting when we eventually go to the Forgotten Realms. How much of that stuff will there be? Like, hey, you enjoyed Icewind Dale, or you enjoyed the Moonshade Isles. Well, here are some previous content on it here, if they do the same thing again, because obviously we're going to look at that soon. So yeah, that'll be really interesting. There you go. Thank you for joining us to Netheril, the floating city of doom. Eventually, ooh, absolutely. And a brief sidetrack on like terrible memes, doom scrolling skits. Yeah. Hamilton, where can we find you on the internet if you want to be found? Is there anything you would like to plug?
You can find me as Theatre Macabre wherever you are on the internet. If you want to, also you can go to theatremacabre.co.uk and you can now buy some books and lots of books in PDF forms of stuff. So you can find me on Itch, and Itch doesn't take any money, so I'm happy for people to go to Itch. But if you don't want to use Itch, some people don't like that, you can also go to the website and you can buy PDFs, and you can also buy physical copies of Ironclad and Demon Slayer, which are two of the books that I've done. So if you fancy getting those, Ironclad is a Forbidden Psalm supplement, which is based on the world of Wraithborn, not Warhammer, Wraithborn, is where Ironclad knights versus mechs, basically. So if you want to play that little miniature game, there's that. And then Demon Slayer is my little supplement for Mortborg, where you can become a Demon Slayer. And there's lots of elemental magic and stuff like that, which is quite fun. And I am tomorrow evening doing the first recording of our Warhammer Imperium Maledictum sort of two-parter. So that's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. So that will be up soon on the Theatre Macabre YouTube channel. And yeah, we'll be nearly there, basically.
All lots of stuff happening over at your end. Busy.
Busy. And but. I just don't know what I will be wearing.
Oh, thanks. Look at that. That was pretty good. That was good.
When they come out. But we will but thinking of where.
Thinking of where? Well, let me tell you, Hamilton, we could talk all about your costumes. No, I will recommend, if you watch any of Hamilton's amazing actual plays, Hamilton always does an incredible job of dressing up. Admittedly, when Taylor's on it, there's no way.
Outshines us all.
Outshines us all. So Taylor wins by default, obviously. Yeah. Hamilton has some absolutely cracking face paint and the costumes on as well. But where, I am so glad you asked. Where is What Am I Rolling, which is a twice monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast where we're doing lots of different RPG systems and interviews with game designers. Currently, Kuriko is coming out slowly but surely. We've got some interviews with game designers coming up, and we're just sort of ticking along there, having as good a time as any. We've also got the RP Geeks. So I'm 1/3 of the RP Geeks. At time of release, hopefully all of Teeth Blood Cotillion is out. So if you liked Forged in the Dark stuff, go recommend that. Teeth is in a great...
If you like creepy Fiona things, you'll like this, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Although Blood Cotillion essentially is like a starter adventure into the system where we all play young ingenues at a mass ball who are trying to stop a blood cult from happening, because we are actually secret assassins, but also maybe we are trying to find husbands. It's very hard to tell. So yeah, that's a little bit of
Why
fun.
not both?
Why not both? But then hopefully we'll have been starting or about to start our Blade Runner series. Yes, we're doing our session 0 today, and I'm a little bit nervous, I'll be honest.
Exciting.
I'm excited as well. Again, we're just doing the pre-generated scenarios for ease, but I'm hopefully, by the time this comes out, it started and everything's going really well. Aren't I great? But yes, so if you're interested in some sci-fi stuff as well as some horror stuff, obviously check out What Am I Rolling, which right now the Karika one is like, a cute little witch goes for a year away and like finds out more about themselves, versus Bloodthirsty Ingenue versus sci-fi neo-noir. What if our memories are false? So we've got the whole range of stories
you're
there.
doing everything. You're playing all sides. You're literally covering. You're showing your range and depth of skills. That's fair.
Either that or very, very poorly. Depending, a master, was it Jack of all trades but master of none? That's what it could be about genres here.
I don't think that's fair. I think master of horror, but that's fine.
But that's
Jack of all trades but master of horror. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. That's what good. Well, until then, friends, we will see you next time for another.
I thought you were doing this. I thought you were doing the thing.
You were so close. You're ready to go, but I'll quickly do it. We'll be back next week with another episode of the DN's Blog. But until then, we will
see you on the flip side.
Bye.